Hello, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to review the real estate market analysis for Los Gatos, California for May 2008. My name is Robert Whitelaw, and I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of California. I'm also a member of the National Association of Realtors and a certified E-Pro. Now, for the month of May, we saw some pretty interesting numbers for Los Gatos. We saw kind of a continuation of what we've seen in previous months, and as usual, we start with the inventory numbers. This month, we're just going back to the year 2000, but we can see how inventory now has started to make the increase that was really the first indicator that things were going a little bit crazy in the county in general, and also some of the smaller communities that have been more hard hit. If you look at those numbers, you can see that in the month of May, from 2007 to 2008, the overall inventory increased by 22.9%. That gave us 161 homes total on the market in Los Gatos for the month of May in 2008. Now, if we take a look next at the number of homes that were listed, we can also see an increase. Now, the total increase was 17.2%, which gave us a total number of homes added to the inventory in the month of May as 68. Now, these two numbers alone are a little bit interesting. We would normally expect to see an increase in the number of listings for this time of year. But remember, this is all the same month. So when we talk about it being a seasonal influence, it's really in comparison to the months around it, not to the same time in previous years. So this year, more folks are entering the market than did last year, and we have more homes for sale this year than we did last year. Now, what's interesting is we're not seeing the next number going the direction that we saw happen for the rest of the county. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we've been doing on sales, and we can actually see that sales have increased. Now, sales have been decreasing in Los Gatos really since 2004. You can, at least for the month of May, you can see 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, all showing a very gradual decline. But then we got a jump in 2008 for the month of May, where sales increased 28.6%. That gave us a total homes sold of 36. Now, that's pretty good. We've seen an increase in some other areas that are a little bit of a concern, but we've seen sales increase with it. So clearly there are buyers out there that are interested in purchasing homes in Los Gatos, and they're offsetting just a bit, at least some of these increases that we're seeing in inventory and in homes added to the market for the month. Now, what's interesting is one of these numbers that I like to point to a lot is the ratio between the inventory and the solds. And right now, we have about 4.5 months worth of inventory currently in our hands in Los Gatos. So basically what that means is if inventory froze where it is now and the sales number stayed the same as it is right now, it would take us about 4.5 months to sell all of those homes. Or to put it another way, for every home that sells, there's about 4.5 homes trying to get sold. That's actually a fairly healthy number. Now, this is, as I've mentioned in previous shows, it starts to get a little bit more interesting. I start to look at it a little bit more closely once we get over 4.5, but we're right at 4.5 now. Now, if we start to get up into 5 and 6, then things are worrisome. There are other areas, though, for instance, Morgan Hill in Santa Clara County, that are up at 17 months worth of inventory. These numbers have been up far, far higher in other areas. So Los Gatos is still doing very well in relation to the rest of the area, but it's also just still such a very desirable place to live. They're just not suffering under this as much. But interesting to see how this goes over the next couple of months, particularly if we end up getting a more extended summer season than we did last year anyway. Now, let's go ahead and look at the same numbers just over the past months, and you can see how things have been fluctuating. Now, different times of the year, it's normal to see a decrease. Notice we saw our lowest inventory in December. We would expect to see that kind of a dip. That's actually very normal. Now, if we look at March of 2007, which is way back there, the very first set of columns on the far left, and compare that to March this year and see what happened then. Now, March, April, May, steady increases all the way into May. Now notice this year, March, April, May, peaking in April with an inventory decline in May. Now, that's actually a pretty good indicator when compared to last year. Normally, we wouldn't have expected to see the inventory start to dip until June. Now, you'll notice in June of last year, we saw an increase in sales between May and June. And last year, between April and May, we saw a decrease in sales. that's interesting because this year we didn't get that. This year, between April and May, we got an increase. So if anyone can say that their summer season has arrived or they're at least starting to get some sort of a summer bump, it's Los Gatos. We've started to see sales increase. A lot of folks jumped into the market after January, February, March, and now they're getting rewarded with more buyers coming into the marketplace and purchasing homes. This is all very good news for the Los Gatos market. It's showing a pretty good amount of stability that some other communities aren't enjoying. So I think it really is good news for the community. Now, the inventory numbers are actually down 4.2% when compared to the previous month. Listed, the number of homes added to the market actually is flat. Now, let's go ahead and look at last year. Between April and May, we actually saw a bit of a decline in the number of homes listed. But, you know, that number is so small, it's really hard to call out any kind of a trend. In fact, from March all the way until May, for that 3-month segment of time, it was really relatively flat. Same can be said this year. We actually had it a little bit higher in March, and then we saw a decline in April, and then it stayed flat for both April and May. Now, the sales increased 63.6% between April and May. Now, that's a clear indicator that a lot of buyers have jumped into the market in Los Gatos. A lot of folks are looking to purchase. Again, good news for Los Gatos. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at home prices. Of course, that's one of the next most important things folks who are listing their homes really want to find out about. And we've got some interesting data this particular month that I want to get into with you, partially because we want to start taking a closer look at why average home prices are down in Los Gatos. We've seen a definite slowdown in the increase. This is one of the first months where we're seeing an actual decline in the average sales price of homes when compared to last year. Now, the average home price is down 12.5% in Los Gatos for an average home price of $1,438,875. Now, you'll notice that the median stayed more or less the same, while the average price dropped. Now, what that tells us is that there were more homes huddled at the lower end of the market than usual. That's kind of interesting to note because it would definitely contribute to, since we saw an increase in the total number of homes sold, it would tend to give credence to the fact that lower priced homes were selling. But we'll have to see if that becomes the trend. Does this start to continue? Are we seeing a shifting in the spending habits of buyers to lower end single family residences, or at least lower priced single residence homes in Los Gatos? Now, the highest priced home, and see, this is the kind of data that sort of throws that out a bit. This may just be a blip just for this month, because remember, we're dealing with much smaller sampling here. There's only 36 homes that sold, so we don't want to hang everything on 1 month's worth of data. We want to see trends. The highest priced home was on Forester Court in Los Gatos. Now, that sold for $4 million, and its original list price was $4,500,000, and it was on the market for a total of 56 days. Now, contrast that with the lowest price home that sold in Los Gatos, which was on Comanche Trail in Los Gatos, sold for $415,000, was originally listed for $449,000, but that doesn't tell the whole story. Now, this home was on the market for a grand total of 85 days. During that time, the price moved a great deal. It started at $449,000, then it was dropped, then it was dropped again. It was dropped at one point to $409,000, still didn't sell there. Then it got dropped to $399,960. So when this home actually sold, the list price that it was currently at when it sold was below what it ended up selling for. And in fact, due obviously to multiple offers, it got negotiated above the amount that it had been listed for just a few weeks before. Now, this is a good indicator that the market's relatively robust here in Los Gatos when you can get multiple offers, but it also shows that the folks selling this home were willing to adjust to what they were seeing in the market. About every month, they took a look at what was happening, realizing they weren't getting the attention they needed. They adjusted their price, and when they finally hit the sweet spot, not only did they sell it, but they sold it for more than they were asking at that time. Now, did it get all the way back up to $449,000? No, but it got them more than they were willing to settle for at $399,960. So that's good news for those folks. Now, the average price per square foot for the homes that are selling in Los Gatos right now is $670.82. For the active homes currently on the market, the average price per square foot is $786.21, and the average asking price is $2,413,548. Now, because of what we're seeing here, and because of what we're also seeing in terms of the spread of days on market, which we'll get to in a minute, all of this is lending a little bit of credence to the idea that buyers are gravitating more towards the lower priced homes in the Los Gatos market. Now, previously we weren't able to come to that conclusion because homes at all the various price ranges were selling equally well. A home could be on the market for 100 days and be a low-priced home, while another would sell in a week that was at the extreme high end. But this is a good example of how a home, at least the highest and lowest that we see, where a home that was priced correctly, even though it was at a high price point, did end up selling faster than a home that ended up going for less than $500,000. So it's an interesting contrast there. I think what we have is some folks at the high end that are asking really more than is correct for their market. I'm not going to say that that's because of a down market, but I will say that there may be some folks with higher than supportable expectations who are priced at the higher end. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at home prices over previous months. As I said, the average price for a home in Los Gatos that sold in May was $1,438,875. And we're going to go ahead here and look at trends. Between April and May of last year, we saw a dip in the average price. We saw a dip this time as well. So a dip is not unusual given past performance, but it was a much more profound dip than we've seen. If we see the same kind of performance as we did last year on a month-to-month basis, we would expect June to give us another bit of a drop. Now, who knows how much that might be? It may not even come to pass that comes true just because of the large drop that we saw. We may actually see that this was statistically stilted a little bit because so many homes at the lower end, lower price range end sold. If we can get some of the homes at the higher end to reevaluate their asking prices, I bet we would see those homes start to move. And if that's the case, then we'd probably next month see more of a flat change in price. I'm not expecting to see a big drop again in price next month. But let's go ahead and think about what we should see next month. Now, here we are in May. Price drop next month. I'm going to call it as probably more of a flattening, but we'll see how that goes. Now, and then in July, average prices should start to go up a little bit if we see last year being reflected in this year's numbers. And with the great numbers we saw for sales, just at least the number of homes that are getting sold, I think we could be a little optimistic here and say we might get a little bit of a summer season here in Los Gatos while other areas are not. Now, the percentage change from April to May of 2008 was a price, the average change in price was 24.6%. So the average home price dropped 24.6% between April and May, with a median price adjustment of down 12%. And again, the total homes that sold were 36. Now, let's take a look at the total days to sell. This is going to just give us the average number of homes, or average number of days it took for the homes that sold in Los Gatos to get sold. And we can see that it is a profound drop from the same time last year. This is a very interesting number with the kind of inventory numbers and the number of listed homes number. I think we could have expected this to be up a little bit when compared to last year. Now, last year may have been statistically unusual. It may have been just a lot of homes that have been on the market for a long time suddenly started getting put through the system. But no matter how you slice it, it's definitely a good performing time for us here in May. We actually had a drop of 46 days total. It's 46 days quicker to get a home sold right now in Los Gatos than the same time last year. That's a 52.9% drop from the previous year. Now, what's very interesting this particular month of May, we're going to break this down a little bit more than I usually do because it's really kind of fascinating. The lowest days on market was 1. And that's not just one house. There were several homes that sold in one day. We'll get into more detail on that in a minute. The longest days on market was 217, so keep that range in mind. 36 homes sold. The total range was from 1 day on the market to 217 days. A dramatic range. Now, 9 of those homes were on the market for 1 week or less. 13 of those homes were on the market 8 to 30 days. That basically gives us 22 homes, far more than half that sold in less than 30 days. That's excellent performance. Now, 8 homes sold in 31 to 90 days, and 6 homes were on the market for 90 or more days. And again, we had 155 days, 217 days. We have some homes that have been on the market for quite some time. Now, the average days on the market for the actives is 113 days. So contrast that with the homes that are selling in 41 days. Clearly, we have some homes that are not priced right in their price bracket. I think expectations perhaps for some sellers out there are a little bit too high. because we have a lot of homes out there that are far in excess of the average days on market. And the number one indicator on those things is usually asking price. So I think if some folks adjust their price ranges, and as we've seen from this, not even by a huge amount, this home at the low end that adjusted its price, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 made a huge difference in its desirability as far as buyers were concerned. Now, same thing, days to sell, but now going back again month to month, all the way to March of 2007. We're looking for trends here. We can see that we've actually had a pretty steady decline in the days to sell in Los Gatos since December, when we kind of had a peak. We also had another peak in May of last year, but December is a normal time to see a peak, or at least the winter time is a normal time to see a peak. And again, February, there were just several homes. It was a relatively small sampling of homes again, but we had 3 or 4 homes in that mix that had been on the market for, in some cases, 400, 380 days that really threw the numbers off. So that 129-day blip in February was really just a blip. It was just an anomaly. So nothing to get concerned about, as I indicated at the time. But in general, if we average this out, we can see we're seeing a pretty steady decline in the days on market in Los Gatos. Now, the change between April and May of 2008 was 29.3%. So that came out to 17 days less time to get your home sold in the month of May than in the month of April. Very good news for folks out there trying to get things sold. And also, I think the market that has been so good as far as buyers are concerned. Now, granted, we've only recently saw average home prices dropping, but the ability of folks to get into Los Gatos now, I think in the minds of people, whether it's really true or not, because we've granted up until last month, we saw on average increases in average home price. We haven't seen prices dropping substantially. I think buyers are interpreting it as a good time to buy in a place like Los Gatos, which is fantastic, with top schools, a really well-managed town. So I think that's all worked in Los Gatos' favor to keep it robust during this down market. Now, I appreciate you all taking the time to listen to what I have to say on these subjects. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can visit my website where you'll find my podcast, which I put out weekly. You can also find my other video presentations and also articles I write on real estate at www.soldbyrobert.com. If you'd like to email me with any ideas, suggestions, or observations, please feel free to do so at robert@soldbyrobert.com. Or if you'd like to call me anything relating to real estate, really, feel free to do so at 408-852-0525. And then, of course, for those of you who are a little bit more interested in doing instant messaging online, you can reach me that way. You can use AOL Instant Messenger, Google Talk, or Yahoo Instant Messenger, and you can use my screen name, which is The Rebel Broker. And, of course, referrals are always appreciated. If you or anyone you know is interested in purchasing or selling real estate in Silicon Valley, please feel free to give me a call. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you all next time.